They told me I'd never walk again. The pain was unbearable. After Vietnam, my body was a wreck, shrapnel in my left leg, back injuries from a helicopter crash, and 40 years of the VA pumping me full of pills that left me feeling like a zombie. I'm John Mercer, and if you're watching this because chronic pain has taken over your life, I understand. I've been there wondering if this is just how it's gonna be until the end. But I'm standing here today, and I want to share how I got my life back using remedies that shocked even my doctors. This isn't some miracle cure story. It's about a journey, my journey, from a man who couldn't get out of bed to someone who now hikes with his grandkids. And it all started when I finally stopped looking for answers in the places everyone told me to look. I was just 19 when I was deployed to Vietnam in 1969. Young, naive, thought I was invincible, like most kids that age. I served as a helicopter crew chief with the 101st Airborne. We flew missions nearly every day, extracting wounded soldiers, delivering supplies, sometimes just flying into hot zones under heavy fire. It was during one of those extractions that it happened. We were taking off from a clearing with 3 wounded soldiers. On board when we took enemy fire. The pilot tried to maneuver us out, but we clipped some trees and went down. Not a full crash, but hard enough. I was thrown against the side of the chopper, felt something snap in my back. But that wasn't all. Shrapnel from enemy fire had torn through parts of the helicopter and into my left leg. In the moment, I didn't feel much. Adrenaline, I guess. I helped get the wounded out, limping through the jungle until another helicopter found us. It wasn't until I was back at base that the pain hit me. Like fire running up and down my spine, and my leg felt like it was being stabbed with every step. The military doctors patched me up best they could. They removed most of the shrapnel, but some pieces were too deep, too close to nerves. "You'll just have to live with it," they said. That became a phrase I'd hear for the next 40 years of my life. When I came home in '71, I was different. Not just the nightmares, the jumpiness, the things people associate with Vietnam vets. My body was different. At 21, I moved like an old man. I couldn't stand for more than 30 minutes. Couldn't lift my young son. Couldn't work the construction job I had lined up before the war. The VA started me on pain. Meds right away. First, it was just basic stuff, high-dose aspirin, then stronger anti-inflammatories. By the '80s, I was on serious narcotic painkillers. They helped. Sort of. They dulled the pain, but they dulled everything else too. My thinking, my emotions, my ability to be present with my family. That was my life for decades. The pain and the pills. The pills and the pain. One feeding the other in this cycle I couldn't break. I gained weight because I couldn't exercise. The extra weight made the pain worse. The worse pain meant more pills. You get the picture. Fast forward to 2012. I'm 62 years old and things had gotten worse, much worse. The shrapnel in my leg had shifted over the years, causing nerve damage. My back had degenerated to the point where I had severe stenosis, that's narrowing of the spinal canal. The discs between my vertebrae were practically gone in some places. I was on the maximum dose of oxycodone, plus muscle relaxers, plus nerve pain medication. I was taking about 15 pills a day, and still, the pain was winning. I couldn't drive anymore because the meds made me too drowsy. My wife had to help me shower. I used a wheelchair for anything more than a few steps around the house. Then came the day that changed everything. My oldest granddaughter, Lily, was turning 8. She'd been begging me to come to her birthday party at the park. I promised her I would, even though I knew it would be difficult. My son helped me into the car, got the wheelchair in the trunk, and drove me there. At the park, I sat in my wheelchair watching the kids play. Lily kept running over, asking if I could come push her on the swing or watch her go down the slide. Each time I had to say no, that grandpa couldn't do that. The look on her face, that mixture of disappointment and pity, it broke something in me. On the way home, I told my son to pull over. I was feeling sick, not just physically sick from the pain of being jostled around, but sick in my soul. I looked at him and said, "I can't live like this anymore." He thought I was talking about, ending things. He got really scared. But that's not what I meant. I meant I couldn't live half a life anymore. I couldn't be the grandfather who just watches from the sidelines. The father who can't help his kids move furniture. The husband who can't take his wife dancing like we used to love doing. That night I made a decision. The conventional approach, the ever-increasing doses of pain. Medication, the surgeries the VA doctors kept suggesting despite the low success rates, it wasn't working. It hadn't worked for 40 years. It was time to try something different. Anything different. Now I'm not the type of guy who was into alternative medicine. I was a Vietnam vet, an old school guy who trusted doctors and the system. The idea of trying what I considered hippie remedies wasn't exactly appealing. But desperation will make you reconsider a lot of things. My daughter-in-law, Sarah, had been suggesting alternatives for years. She's a physical therapist, and she'd seen firsthand how the conventional medical approach to chronic pain often created as many problems as it solved. The day after Lily's birthday party, I called Sarah and said, "I'm ready to try your way." She was shocked, to say the least. But she jumped into action. She made me an appointment with a doctor who practiced integrative medicine. That's an approach that combines conventional medicine with evidence-based complementary therapies. Dr. Patel was different from any doctor I'd seen before. He spent 2 hours with me during that first appointment. 2 hours. He wanted to know everything, not just about my injuries and pain, but about my sleep, my diet, my stress levels, my relationships. He looked at my entire life, not just the broken parts of my body. He explained something that no other doctor had ever told me. Chronic pain isn't just about the initial injury. Over time, pain can actually rewire your nervous system, making it more sensitive. So even after tissues heal, the pain can continue because your brain and nerves have learned to amplify pain signals. It's called central sensitization. This was a revelation to me. All these years, I'd been treating my pain like it was still 1970, like I was still dealing with fresh injuries. But I was actually dealing with a nervous system that had been fundamentally altered by decades of pain. Dr. Patel laid out a plan. It wasn't about a single miracle cure. It was a comprehensive approach that would address multiple aspects of my pain. And he was honest. He told me, "John, this will take time. And it will require work from you. It's not like taking a pill. But if you commit to this process, I believe you can have a different life." For the first time in decades, I felt a glimmer of hope. Not because he promised I'd be pain-free, he didn't. But because his explanation made sense of my experience in a way nothing else had. And because he offered a path forward that didn't involve more of the same. Dr. Patel's approach wasn't about a single miracle cure. It was about a combination of natural approaches that would work together to address different aspects of my pain. And I've got to be honest, some of it sounded pretty strange to this old soldier. but I was committed to trying. The first component was anti-inflammatory nutrition. Dr. Patel explained that many foods actually increase inflammation in the body, which can make pain worse. He put me on what he called an elimination diet to identify which foods might be contributing to my inflammation. For 6 weeks, I eliminated dairy, gluten, processed foods, sugar, and nightshade vegetables like tomatoes and peppers. Then we gradually reintroduced them, watching for reactions. Turns out I had significant inflammatory responses to dairy and processed foods. Just removing those from my diet reduced my overall pain by what felt like 10–15%. Not a cure, but definitely noticeable. The second component was targeted supplementation. Now I wasn't a stranger to supplements. The VA had me on calcium and vitamin D for years. But Dr. Patel's approach was much more specific. Based on blood tests, he recommended high-dose omega-3 fish oil, which is a natural anti-inflammatory curcumin, the active compound in turmeric, which has been shown to reduce pain and inflammation, magnesium, which helps with muscle relaxation and nerve function, a specific form of vitamin B12 called methylcobalamin, which supports nerve health. Within about 3 weeks of starting this regimen, I noticed I was sleeping better. The burning sensation in my leg wasn't as intense. Small changes, but meaningful ones. The third component was the one I was most skeptical about: mind-body practices. Dr. Patel explained that chronic pain creates a stress response in the body, which in turn increases pain, creating a vicious cycle. Breaking that cycle meant learning to activate my body's relaxation response. He introduced me to a practice called mindfulness-based stress reduction, or MBSR. This isn't just meditation, though that's part of it. It's a systematic way of becoming aware of the connection between your thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations. I'm not gonna lie, at first I thought this was nonsense. Me, a Vietnam vet with shrapnel in his leg, sitting cross-legged saying Om. But Dr. Patel connected me with a program specifically for veterans with chronic pain. The instructor was a former Marine who'd been injured in Iraq. His no-nonsense approach made the practice accessible to me. After about a month of daily practice, just 15 minutes a day, I began to notice something profound. I could feel the early warning signs of pain flare-ups, the tension building in my body before the pain got severe. And sometimes I could use the mindfulness techniques to prevent the flare-up from fully developing. The fourth component was the most physically challenging: gentle, targeted movement therapy. Sarah, my daughter-in-law, developed a program for me that combined elements of physical therapy, Tai Chi, and something called foundation training, which focuses on decompressing the spine and teaching proper movement patterns. At first, I could only do about 5 minutes before the pain would intensify. But Sarah kept reminding me, pain doesn't always equal damage. Sometimes the pain was just my nervous system being overprotective, not a sign I was hurting myself. Gradually, over months, I built up my tolerance. The movements became easier. My range of motion increased. The pain didn't disappear, but it changed in quality, from sharp, stabbing pain to more of a dull ache that I could work through. But here's what really surprised me and my doctors at the VA. The combination of these approaches seemed to create what Dr. Patel called a synergistic effect. Each component enhanced the others. The anti-inflammatory diet made my body more responsive to the supplements. The mindfulness practice helped me stick with the movement therapy, even when it was challenging. The movement therapy improved my sleep, which made everything else more effective. 6 months into this program, I had my regular checkup at the VA. My primary doctor there was stunned. My blood pressure was down. I'd lost 27 pounds. And most significantly, I'd reduced my opioid medication by 50%, something he'd been trying to get me to do for years without success. He looked at my chart, then at me, and said, "What are you doing differently, John?" "Whatever it is, keep doing it. When I started this journey, my only goal was pain reduction. I just wanted to hurt less. But what I discovered along the way is that these natural approaches didn't just help with pain, they improved virtually every aspect of my health and life. The most obvious change was in my mental clarity. After decades on high-dose pain medications, I'd gotten used to feeling foggy. I thought that was just part of getting older. But as I reduced my medications and my body responded to the natural protocols, it was like a veil lifted. I could think clearly again. My memory improved. I could have conversations without losing my train of thought. My mood transformed too. I'd struggled with depression for years, not surprising when you're in constant pain. But the combination of better sleep, reduced inflammation, mindfulness practice, and increased movement naturally boosted my mood. My family noticed before I did. My wife said one day, "You're laughing again." I haven't heard you really laugh in years. My energy levels increased dramatically. Again, I had attributed my fatigue to age and pain. But it turned out a significant portion of it was from the medications, poor sleep quality, and inflammation. As those improved, my energy returned. Not to the level of a young man, of course. I was in my 60s after all, but enough that I could be active for several hours without needing to rest. Perhaps most surprising was the improvement in my relationships. Chronic pain is isolating. Over the years, I'd withdrawn from friends, stopped participating in family activities, become more irritable with my wife. As my pain decreased and my energy and mood improved, I found myself reconnecting with people. I started accepting invitations again. I had the emotional bandwidth to really listen when my family members talked, to be present with them instead of being consumed by my pain. One day, about 8 months into this new approach, my son commented that it was like getting his dad back after all these years. That hit me hard, because I realized how much my pain had taken from not just me, but from everyone who loved me. There were physical changes beyond pain reduction too. My digestion improved. Turns out, long-term use of pain medications wreaks havoc on your gut. My skin looked healthier. Even my posture changed as the movement therapy helped me find better alignment. And there was something else, something harder to define but incredibly important. I regained a sense of agency. For decades, I'd felt at the mercy of my pain, a passive recipient of treatments that never quite worked. This new approach required my active participation. I wasn't just taking a pill prescribed by someone else. I was making choices every day that affected my well-being. That shift from passive patient to active participant in my own healing was profoundly empowering. I want to be clear about something, though. This wasn't a miracle cure. I didn't wake up one day completely pain-free. I still have pain. I still have days when it flares up badly. The difference is in how I relate to the pain, how I manage it, and how much it controls my life. Before, pain was the center of my existence, dictating what I could and couldn't do. Now it's just one aspect of my life, an unwelcome visitor that shows up sometimes, but no longer the thing that defines me. Now I don't want to paint an unrealistic picture here. This journey wasn't a straight line to improvement. There were setbacks, significant ones, and times I nearly gave up. About 4 months in, I experienced a major pain flare-up. It happened after I'd been making steady progress, feeling better than I had in years. I got overconfident, tried to do too much too soon. I spent a day helping my son install flooring in his house, something I never could have done before starting this program. But I pushed too hard, ignored the warning signs my body was sending. The next morning, I could barely move. The pain was as bad as it had ever been. My first instinct was to go back to my full dose of pain medication. To say, see, this natural stuff doesn't really work. I called Dr. Patel, expecting him to admit defeat. Instead, he said something that changed my perspective. This isn't a failure of the approach, John. It's part of the learning process. Your body is giving you information. Our job is to listen to it, not fight against it. He adjusted my protocol temporarily, increased certain anti-inflammatory supplements, modified my movement therapy, added some specific meditation practices for pain flares. And he reminded me that healing isn't linear. There would be ups and downs, but the overall trajectory could still be positive. He was right. It took about 2 weeks, but I returned to where I'd been before the flare-up, and then continued to improve. Another significant challenge came from an unexpected source, the VA healthcare system. When my primary VA doctor saw my improvement, he was supportive. But not everyone in the system was. When I told my pain management specialist I wanted to continue reducing my medication and focus more on these natural approaches, he was dismissive, even hostile. These alternative treatments aren't evidence-based, he told me, despite the fact that many of them have substantial research behind them. You're setting yourself up for failure, he refused to work. With me on a more aggressive medication reduction plan, insisting I needed to stay on high doses indefinitely. This was demoralizing and confusing. Here I was, clearly improving, taking less medication, functioning better, and being told by a specialist that what I was experiencing wasn't valid or sustainable. I nearly gave up then. The authority of that white coat is powerful, especially for someone of my generation who was raised to trust doctors implicitly. But my family reminded me of how far I'd come. My daughter-in-law connected me with research supporting the approaches I was using. And Dr. Patel helped me find a new pain management specialist who practiced integrative medicine and was willing to work with my full protocol. There were other challenges too. The financial aspect was significant. Many of these treatments weren't covered by my VA benefits or Medicare. The supplements were expensive. The specialized movement therapy sessions with practitioners trained in these approaches weren't cheap. All told, I was spending about $300 a month out of pocket. For someone on a fixed retirement income, that was a real strain. I had to make difficult decisions about what to prioritize. Dr. Patel helped me identify which elements of the protocol were most essential for my specific condition, so I could focus my resources there. My family helped too. My children pooled resources to pay for some of the treatments as birthday and Christmas gifts. The time commitment was also challenging. Between the daily mindfulness practice, preparation of anti-inflammatory meals, movement therapy sessions, and appointments with various practitioners, I was dedicating 1-2 hours a day to my health. That's a significant chunk of time. There were days I resented it, days I wanted to just take a pill and be done with it. On those days, I had to remind myself of where that approach had got me over the previous 40 years. And I had to acknowledge the results I was seeing. Yes, this new way required more of me. But it was giving me so much more in return, a life, not just an existence. Perhaps the most difficult challenge was letting go of the identity I'd built around being a disabled veteran with chronic pain. As strange as it might sound, there was a part of me that was uncomfortable getting better. My pain had been such a fundamental part of who I was for so long. It had shaped my daily routines, my relationships, my self-image. Who was I without it dominating my life? This psychological aspect of healing isn't talked about enough. When you've been in pain for decades, it becomes part of your identity. Letting go of that identity, even though it's associated with suffering, requires a kind of grieving process. The mindfulness practice was crucial for navigating this unexpected challenge, helping me observe these thoughts and feelings without being controlled by them. Through all these setbacks and challenges, what kept me going was the tangible evidence that, despite the ups and downs, I was moving in the right direction. Each time I could do something I hadn't been able to do before, walk around the block, play on the floor with my grandkids, drive myself to an appointment, it reinforced my commitment to this new path. It's been 3 years since that day at Lily's birthday party when I decided I couldn't live half a life anymore. 3 years of learning, experimenting, setbacks, and progress. So where am I today? I'm not cured, I still have shrapnel in my leg. I still have degeneration in my spine. Those physical realities haven't changed. But how those conditions affect my life has changed dramatically. I've reduced my pain medication by 85%. I now take a small dose once a day rather than large doses multiple times daily. My doctors believe I could potentially eliminate it completely if I choose to, though for now, this minimal amount helps me maintain my quality of life. I walk without assistance most days. Not just around the house, but in the world. Last summer, I hiked a 2-mile trail in Yellowstone with my family, something that would have been utterly unimaginable 3 years ago. I needed frequent rest breaks, and I was sore afterward, but I did it. The look on Lily's face when her grandpa made it to the scenic overlook with her, that alone was worth every minute of work I've put into this journey. I sleep 6-7 hours most nights, compared to the 3-4 hours of fragmented sleep I used to get. I've lost a total of 42 pounds, which has further reduced the strain on my damaged spine and joints. My blood pressure is normal for the first time in decades. I've been able to discontinue 2 medications I was taking for conditions related to or exacerbated by chronic pain. My relationship with my wife has been revitalized. We're enjoying activities together again, even dancing occasionally, albeit slowly and carefully. I'm present with my children and grandchildren in a way I couldn't be before. I've reconnected with old friends, even joined a veterans group that meets weekly. But perhaps most importantly, I've regained a sense of possibility. For decades, my horizon had been shrinking. Each year, there were fewer things I could do, fewer places I could go, fewer experiences I could have. Now that horizon is expanding again. I'm making plans. I'm saying yes to invitations. I'm thinking about the future with anticipation rather than dread. So what does this mean for you if you're watching this and living with chronic pain? First, I want to acknowledge that every person's situation is unique. My specific combination of approaches might not be exactly right for your condition, your body, your life circumstances. I'm not suggesting you should ditch your doctors or stop your medications. That could be dangerous without proper medical supervision. What I am suggesting is that there may be more possibilities for improving your pain and quality of life than you've been led to believe. That a comprehensive approach addressing inflammation, nervous system regulation, movement patterns, and the mind-body connection might offer benefits that no single treatment can provide alone. I'm suggesting that even if you've been in pain for decades, even if you've tried countless treatments without success, even if you've been told this is as good as it gets, there may still be paths you haven't explored, combinations you haven't tried, approaches that could make a meaningful difference in your life. And I'm suggesting that you are more than your pain. That there are aspects of yourself, your personality, your relationships, your interests, your capacity for joy, that have been overshadowed by pain but not eliminated by it. Those parts of you are still there, waiting to be reclaimed. If my story resonates with you, if you see something of yourself in what I've shared, then I encourage you to consider taking a first step. That might mean researching integrative medicine practitioners in your area who specialize in chronic pain. It might mean talking to your current healthcare providers about incorporating some of these approaches alongside your conventional treatments. It might mean simply trying an anti-inflammatory diet for a few weeks to see if you notice any changes. The specific first step matters less than the decision to take one, the decision to consider that a different experience of pain might be possible for you. You know, when I came back from Vietnam all those years ago, broken in body and spirit, I never imagined I'd be here today, sharing my story, walking on my own 2 feet, living a life that feels worth living again. The journey from there to here wasn't easy or straightforward. It required me to question beliefs I'd held for decades, to step outside the conventional medical system that wasn't serving me well, to take responsibility for my healing in a new way, to face setbacks and keep going. But it was worth every difficult moment, every doubt, every financial sacrifice. Because on the other side of all that effort was life. Real life, not just existence. The ability to be present with the people I love. To experience joy again. To contribute rather than just consume care. If you're struggling with chronic pain right now, I want you to know that I see you. I understand the isolation, the frustration, the way pain shrinks your world down to smaller and smaller spaces. I understand the feeling that this is just how it's going to be forever. But I'm here to tell you, that might not be true. There might be another chapter to your story. A chapter where pain doesn't disappear completely. This isn't a fairy tale, but where it no longer controls every aspect of your existence. That chapter won't write itself. It will require your active participation, your willingness to try approaches that might seem unfamiliar or even strange at first. It will require patience and persistence through setbacks. It might require financial resources and support from loved ones. But if my experience is any indication, what awaits on the other side is worth the effort. Not a perfect life, none of us get that, but a fuller one. A life where pain is just one part of your story, not the whole story. So if you're ready to explore what might be possible for you, take that first step. Research integrative approaches to chronic pain. Look for practitioners who understand both conventional and complementary medicine. Connect with others who are on similar journeys, there's strength in community. And remember what I had to learn the hard way. Healing isn't just about what's happening in your body. It's about reconnecting with who you are beyond the pain. That person is still there, and they deserve a chance to live again. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it offers some small measure of hope, some reminder that even after decades of pain, change is possible. You're not defined by your limitations. And there might be more possibilities for healing than you've been led to believe. This old soldier is rooting for you.